On April 7th, in the Meitei majority village of Tronglaobi in Manipur's Bishnupur district, a sudden strike tore through the sky. A local family's home was directly hit by a rocket attack. The explosion claimed the lives of 2 children inside, a 5-year-old boy and his 5-month-old sister. Instead of retreating to mourn, the local community mobilized, turning their profound grief into a sudden and furious protest. The crowd marched on the local camp of the Central Reserve Police Force, the heavily armed federal unit stationed in the area. Their demand was pointed. If federal troops are deployed here specifically to protect civilians, how is a deadly rocket strike on a family home still possible? As the crowd pressed forward, the situation escalated rapidly. To control the surging protest, the CRPF opened fire on the civilians, resulting in 2 more deaths. Within a matter of hours, a highly localized tragedy involving 2 young children spiraled into a fatal clash between desperate citizens and the exact forces sent to keep them safe. Following the violence, the state government scrambled to regain control, quickly transferring the investigation of the children's deaths to the National Investigation Agency. They followed that up by temporarily suspending internet access across multiple districts to curb the spread of misinformation and public panic. But the protests haven't stopped. These heavy-handed state responses are failing to calm the public because the April 7th strike was not an isolated event. The entire state of Manipur has been trapped in a continuous, violent ethnic conflict since May of 2023. The violence is driven by clashes between 2 distinct groups: the Meitei majority, who live mostly in the valleys, and the Kuki tribes, who reside in the surrounding hill districts. The placards carried by both communities mirror a shared, desperate sentiment, the belief that their very survival is actively threatened by the other. This scale illustrates the mechanics of that fear. The dispute revolves around access to protected tribal status, which dictates who gets specific government job reservations, educational benefits, and the legal right to own land. When access to those extremely limited resources is perceived as shifting, it triggers intense anxiety. This is an organized, desperate struggle for economic survival and political representation. Because the state has not been able to mediate this deep economic and territorial anxiety, any localized act of violence immediately ignites statewide outrage. The 4 lives lost on April 7th are just the most recent casualties in a long, devastating timeline. This chart tracks the human cost over the past year. Starting from those 4 initial casualties we looked at, the total aggressively scales up to approximately 260 people who have been killed since the violence began. Alongside the rising death toll, a second, quieter crisis is unfolding: internal displacement. More than 60,000 citizens have abandoned their homes and livelihoods to escape the clashes. Tens of thousands, just like this mother and child, are living in massive relief camps, functioning as refugees within the borders of their own country. Deploying additional battalions of armed security forces and enforcing digital blackouts haven't stopped the bleeding. They act merely as temporary bandages placed over a deep, systemic wound. Until the political issues regarding resource allocation, economic anxiety, and ethnic reservations are genuinely mediated, the cycle of violence will continue, and the most innocent citizens will keep paying the price.